This is a big day in our campaign. It's a big day in the history of Illinois. This is part of our process to win this election and transform our state government so it's working for the families of our state again. We've lost our way, and Evelyn and I are on a mission to transform our government, making it work again for the hardworking men and women, families throughout our great state. I'm very honored. Mr. Bays, thank you very much for the endorsement from the Illinois Manufacturers Association. This is a big deal. We appreciate it very much. Manufacturing is a core part of the leading part of the Illinois' economy. Manufacturers in Illinois create thousands and thousands of high-paying, high-quality jobs, and we've lost our way. Illinois used to be a leader, national leader, international leader in manufacturing, and our manufacturing base is eroding. We are not competitive. We have not created an environment for manufacturing firms to thrive. And if we don't have an environment for them to thrive and grow jobs, the Illinois economy deteriorates, our tax base erodes, and the opportunities for hardworking and families in Illinois get lost. So Evelyn and I are here today to discuss with you how we are going to transform that tragic circumstance and bring back more opportunities, restore the opportunity for the American dream for the hardworking families of our great state. The sad truth is that manufacturers and job creators of all kinds are suffering under Governor Pat Quinn. The folks who get squeezed the most from Pat Quinn's failed record on taxes and jobs are the hardworking middle-class families of Illinois. Under Pat Quinn, Illinois has the worst unemployment rate in the Midwest, and since the beginning of this year, we have lost more than 25,000 jobs under Pat Quinn since January. He is failing on job creation, he is failing on growth. He believes we can tax our way out of our problems. We cannot tax our way out of our problems. We need to grow our way out of our challenges. Pat Quinn doesn't understand it. He's failing our families terribly. To get there, we need to make major changes to our tax and regulatory structures to become a growth state again. We need to invest in innovation. We need to invest in workforce development. And we need to invest in small businesses of all kinds. We need to fundamentally shake up Illinois' job climate to bring back Illinois. We're running out of time. We had the second most out-migration of any state in the country last year, and as the recent survey showed, nearly 50% of Illinois families would like to leave this state if they could. That's a tragic, tragic circumstance. We have got to turn that around. If we want to turn Illinois around, we can't continue to lose businesses, jobs, and people. If we only had the average unemployment rate and the average growth rate in Illinois of all the other states in America, if we were simply average, we'd have over $1 billion more in tax revenue, if we were simply average in our growth. If Illinois' population grew as fast as the past 4 years' national average, tax collections would rise from that population growth another $748 million a year. If the average job supports $4,484 in sales tax and income tax on average. If Illinois had the national average unemployment rate of 6.1% instead of 7.5%, we'd collect $412 million more in taxes per year. If we had neighboring Iowa's rate of 4.4% unemployment, we'd add $913 million in tax revenue. Sadly, because Pat Quinn's policies impede growth, Quinn's chosen to lower expectations and what he defines as success. In his own economic development plan, Governor Quinn calls for the creation of only 75,000 jobs over the next 5 years. That is stunning failure. This would only take us back to November 2008's employment total, 11 years later. Pat Quinn's 5-year plan is to pretend that the last 5 years never existed. The people of Illinois deserve so much more. Our state has everything going for us. Great location, great people. We're the financial center of the Midwest. We just have to have a governor who isn't failing and who's going to lead on job creation and economic growth. So we're here to discuss our pro-growth platform. We want to walk through the detail with you for a couple minutes if you'll focus the critical points. First of all, we've got to emphasize Illinois is just focused very much on taxes, fees, charges, every chance they get. We have an astounding 26 different taxes in Illinois and 1,504 types of fees. We've got to reduce that, simplify that. To create a pro-growth tax system, We've got to do three primary things. We need to roll back the Quinn-Madigan tax hike all the way back down to where it started back in 2010. We need to reform our sales tax code so it is more like well-run, better-run states and more comprehensive in its approach. And we need to freeze property taxes. Three major transformations of our tax code. We need to completely eliminate the Quinn-Madigan 67% tax hike, resulting in 3% income tax rate and for individuals and a 4.8% corporate income tax rate, just like we had in 2010. Pat Quinn's tax hike has cost the average family more than $1,000 every year since it was enacted. That's an entire week's average pay, and has cost Illinois businesses and families more than $25 billion. But its true cost is even worse. Because our economy isn't competitive, not only have families had to pay more in taxes, but their average incomes in Illinois are down as well. Average incomes are falling because we're not competitive, we're not pro-growth. And despite the damage his tax hike has done, Pat Quinn now wants to break his promise and make the tax hike permanent, after he promised he would make it temporary. We've got to reverse that and roll it all the way back. His approach is the wrong approach. We've got to grow our way out of our problems. Secondly, after rolling back the Quinn-Madigan tax hike, we need to modernize our sales tax. It is an antiquated, inadequate system. An ideal tax code is one with low rates and a broad base. Illinois has the exact opposite. We have high income tax rates and a narrow sales tax base. Our current sales tax is based on an economy where goods and not services dominated personal spending. Non-necessities like charter airplane flights, interior decorating, marina towing, they are tax-free in Illinois, while we tax necessities like clothes and shoes and furniture. We've got to change that. We've got to have a broader tax base. Right now, Illinois lags behind all of our neighboring states when it comes to the tax treatment of goods compared to services. More than $500 million in new sales tax revenue can be generated if we do that, expanding the sales tax base, but we can still exempt medical services, laundromats, daycare centers, barbershops, animal care, the core necessities of everyday life for hardworking families. Those can be exempted, while we do tax those more luxury goods and business-to-business services that other states tax, that we could tax as well to generate revenue without hurting our competitiveness. Broadening the application of the sales tax helps us reduce the income tax and will make Illinois more competitive economically. And here's the key point. If we reduce taxes on work, on savings and investment, will result in more work, savings, and investment, and that is a pro-growth agenda. That's a pro-growth outcome for the families of our state. Step 3, we should freeze our property taxes in Illinois. This is the number one problem we have. Our local property taxes are stunningly high. They're the second highest in America, and virtually and soon to be the highest in America. They're punishing our hardworking families of our state. Homeowners have seen their property taxes rise even though their home values have fallen. In 2012, residential property taxes topped $17.5 billion. According to the Tax Policy Center, the average homeowner in Illinois pays $4,400 in property taxes every year. We need a property tax freeze that protects and empowers homeowners. Before any community increases property taxes, what we're recommending is that taxpayers deserve a detailed explanation as to how the money will be spent and the opportunity to approve the increase in property taxes. We should have no more property tax hikes without taxpayer approval. This is the key point. From here going forward, we should not allow locally property taxes to go up unless local property owners have voted and approved the tax hike. We should empower local voters to have local control over this brutally high tax. Freezing property taxes is vital to reducing the burdens on families and businesses alike, and I'm pleased to have so many elected officials here today to talk about this needed change in our tax code. They understand the need to empower taxpayers and deliver property tax relief. We've seen the results of Pat Quinn's anti-competitive tax policies. Middle-class families are hurting, businesses are leaving, and the American dream is being lost by the families of our state. Quinn's policies hit workers through smaller paychecks, and then again by taking more tax dollars out of those paychecks to pay for a broken government. We need a fundamentally new direction. Now let's talk about some other critical reforms to get back on a pro-growth platform to generate more tax revenue and, more importantly, generate opportunities for all the hardworking families in our state. We need to reform the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. DCEO is not creative, they're not innovative, they're not competitive with the other states around us. We should change DCEO so it's a public-private partnership. We get business leaders and local community leaders involved in the DCEO and make it a partnership with the private sector as well as inside of government. That can bring innovative ideas and make us more flexible. We need to move at the speed of business with innovative ideas to increase our competitiveness. When I was chairman of the Chicago Convention and Tourism Bureau for 3 years before leaving to become a candidate for public service, I worked in an environment where it was a public-private partnership. We transformed tourism in Chicago in the 3 years that I was chairman there. We brought in a new board, we brought in a new staff, we brought in a new marketing plan, and as a result, Chicago today is one of the fastest growing tourist destinations in the United States. We can do the same thing at the state level. We're beginning to turn the corner because of changes at the national level in the recession, but Illinois can become dominant in tourism again by forming more public-private partnerships, just like the Convention and Tourism Bureau in Chicago. We need to reform the EDGE system so it's more flexible in its opportunities. We need to steal the best ideas from other states, take their best ideas, and change our EDGE program so it's more innovative. And here's a critical point that Mr. Bays emphasized, and Evelyn and I strongly agree. We need true workers' comp reform. It's the #1 block to more manufacturing jobs in Illinois, and we need lawsuit reform. What passed in 2011 for workers' comp reform was a Band-Aid on a broken system. It did not fix the problem. And when I talk to job creators throughout Illinois, our broken workers' comp system is still at the top of the list of things that need to be improved in order to become a growth state again. We also have one of the worst legal climates in the United States. We need to take steps to restrict venue shopping by attorneys, and we need to cap non-economic damages so we're competitive with the other states around us and businesses don't leave because of the punishing cost of lawsuits and liability. And in addition to leveling the playing field for our businesses to compete, we need to make Illinois more friendly for entrepreneurs and startups. An easy way to do that is to reduce the $500 fee we put on LLC formation. When entrepreneurs start new companies, they do through an inordinate amount of paperwork, but we charge them $500 just to file the application to form a new business. That should be dramatically reduced. We should make that easier rather than harder for entrepreneurs. Now, and the minimum wage. We need a responsible increase in the minimum wage. Evelyn and I support a phased-in increase in the minimum wage. We should do that in conjunction with these pro-business reforms. We should do that in conjunction with tax reform, workers' comp reform, and lawsuit reform, and regulatory reduction. And in that context of pro-business changes, then we can afford to have an increase in the minimum wage to support our hardworking families, so small businesses have an environment where they can afford to pay a higher minimum wage. We need to combine this together, minimum wage increase with regulatory reform and tax reform. Now let's talk about women and minority-owned businesses. This is a critical part of our economy. We need to do more to help minority and women-owned businesses in Illinois. Here in our state, according to the SBA, that we have 1.2 million small businesses, but only 343,000 are women-owned, and only 228,000 are minority-owned businesses. Illinois ranks 49th in employment growth and 48th in revenue growth for women-owned firms. Illinois has got to do a better job of encouraging the development of women and minority-owned businesses. An important part of this process is boosting the number of companies that receive state certification. We need to focus and help encourage the state certification of minority-owned businesses and women-owned businesses. We can do that if we focus. And if we do that, then we can increase the number of firms that are eligible to compete for state contracts, opening up more opportunity and economic growth for women and minority-owned businesses. And we can create better linkages between prime and subcontractors by increasing the licensing of minority businesses. We can also do, as has been done at the national level at times in the past, we can create a financial arm of the state government that helps support financing for minority-owned businesses, like the Minority Enterprise Small Business Investment Company that was a part of the SBA. We can do creative things to help create financing opportunities for minority-owned businesses. Boosting and improving vocational technology training, critically important. Unfortunately, Illinois has a double-edged problem. We have high unemployment, but we have many jobs in Illinois going unfilled because our young people aren't trained for the jobs that are available. We have devalued vocational and technology training in Illinois, and we've got to change that. We should significantly expand public-private partnerships between high schools, local community colleges, and local employers, along with our universities, to create job training programs that involve course credit, so our young people don't have to borrow money to get trained outside of schools. The public school system is training them for the jobs that are available, because not every student should go to a four-year college and study professional training. They should get vocational training and job training where they would choose to prefer that route. There are many great careers in the vocational sector. We need to focus our worker training and technical education on programs that have proven results in putting graduates into jobs. Jobs training programs that do not have a successful placement rate should be discontinued, and instead funding and support should go to programs that directly link employers, like apprentice programs do, all over the state. We will emphasize that, and we'll talk more about it in a couple weeks with you when we talk further about our education reforms that we're going to bring to bear. Now, we need to invest in innovation. We need to link university research with innovation around the state. It's not enough to have world-class research institutions like we do in Illinois. Today, our funding for our universities is being cut. We need to restore that. We'll talk about that in the future. But we need to be both a research leader and a place where entrepreneurs want to start and grow their companies. Some of you are aware of the UI Labs project that's being built in Chicago. I was early instigator and driver of that process. I went to former Mayor Daley with that idea 5 years ago. Didn't get pursued aggressively then, but Mayor Emanuel loved the idea and began to pursue it aggressively. That's a critical, it's a first step. It's just scratching the surface of what the opportunities are to take innovative research, combine it with government support and private sector support to create job creation, economic growth engines like UI Labs in the city of Chicago. The University of Illinois is one of the most talented, leading universities in the world in technology, computer science, software, and applied engineering. And they already do a great job of growing the economy in Champaign-Urbana, but the U of I can expand and have a great impact all over the state, in Peoria, in Rockford, in Chicago, and many communities. And our administration will be supporting the U of I to expand, to have more capital, and to grow their economic impact and job creation process. We need to increase innovation investment in the state. Today, there's a 5-year cycle and makes it difficult for companies with sophisticated long-term research projects. Precisely the type of projects that we need to have in Illinois that create high-paying jobs. Our innovation, research and development tax credit expires every 5 years. We should not have that. It should be permanent. Other states have it permanent. We should have it permanent. It shouldn't expire after 5 years. That discourages research and development and economic growth in our state. And then fundamentally, we need to increase Illinois' international competitiveness and grow Illinois' exports. As governor, I'll travel the world on my own nickel, creating export markets for our hardworking agriculture industry as well as our manufacturers. I've been a business builder and a recruiter and a deal maker for economic transactions, and I'll be traveling the world on my nickel, encouraging exports from Illinois employers to dramatically grow our economy. And then finally, I want to emphasize that we need to revitalize manufacturing fundamentally, dramatically in Illinois. Many of the changes we outlined here this morning will do that, but there's one additional thing we need to do. Illinois has a sales tax exemption on the purchase of manufacturing equipment used primarily for the manufacturing or assembly of goods. But it's often difficult to determine where in the manufacturing process a piece of equipment is used and when the tax is applied or not applied. It's a complex, convoluted process, just like many things inside our government. The manufacturer's purchase credit this is an important change. We want to change to this problem. Putting in this purchase credit will allow for a 50% credit on state sales tax that would have to be charged, but is exempt under manufacturer's equipment sales exemption. This credit could then be used to purchase equipment that would otherwise be taxed under the state sales tax. Instead of creating uncertainty requiring this to be reauthorized every 5 years, we should make the manufacturer's purchase credit permanent. It doesn't expire after 5 years. Today, we've outlined a number of major reforms on taxes and regulation and the way government works. We can no longer afford to wait to get these changes made. We can't just hope things will get better. Now is the time to implement bold, pro-growth policies that will bring back Illinois in dramatic fashion. That's why Ellen and I are running for office. We want to deliver these massive restructuring changes. Our current governor, Pat Quinn, is failing. He's doing none of the long-term structuring changes that can create a prosperous state, fix our budget problems in the long term, and restore the American dream for Illinois families. We're going to work to make these changes in place beginning right after November, and we look forward now to taking your questions. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Rauner.